So there's good news and bad news surrounding Rivian. I think overall this is a painful, necessary step as Rivian ramps up to higher and higher volume production, but it does upset the consumers quite a bit, but I do think it's beneficial to the company, which I do care about, because if Rivian doesn't prioritize profitability or production ramping and having a consistent form of revenue coming in, then we're not going to have future cheaper Rivian vehicles or software support long term, or of course the growing adventure network. So what's good for Rivian, I think long term is good for the customers, but in the short term this is kind of annoying. So yeah, they have removed a lot of things lately. So for one, it started with the camping kitchen. So I saw this at the Rivian First Mile event, and it's one of the most flashiest features Rivian has always boasted about with their R1T pickup truck. The ability to have a mobile kitchen where you basically have a stove, a sink, and all of these different titanium utensils and measuring cups and stuff. Really, really cool, amazing feature, but in order to take delivery of your R1T, you had to agree to opt out of the camping kitchen and take delivery of that separately at a later time. I'm grateful that Rivian designed it in such a way that you can take delivery of the kitchen after you accept delivery. It's not like physically you need something built into the truck to make that accessory possible, but then as they got through the first couple months of deliveries, lots and lots of R1T owners were having issues with the powered tonneau cover. It would break under normal operation, and it would break even faster if you were loading a bunch of debris or wood chips or anything. If anything gets caught, basically it's really fragile and stops working. So that means even in the configurator now, they don't let you select the camping kitchen or a powered tonneau cover. So if you just go for the cheapest possible Rivian, there's no tonneau cover at all, and in the configurator you can select a manual tonneau cover, but again, that's not powered. That's something that you have to physically unfold and fold back up again. I haven't seen a real life demo of it yet, but essentially don't expect it to be something just with a button that you can press and it covers up your bed. If you don't opt for that $1,800 manual cover, then it's just an open bed on the back, which is a bit of a bummer. I thought that would hurt the aerodynamics a little bit, but it turns out it doesn't. So slight bit of good news to announce for Rivian. They issued a software update, and I guess that's all it took to increase the range of the R1T by a pretty decent margin. So before, the range on the R1T was like 314 miles. After this software update, it is now 328, which does mean the R1T, at least in terms of EPA filing, now has a range better than that of the F-150 Lightning. So they're kind of just barely leapfrogging each other there, but I'm not sure if they retook the EPA test and maybe that helped them out a bit, because the big change as well is they are no longer letting you opt for a spare tire option, at least with the configurator. Before, that was basically the third step of designing your Rivian. What gear do you want with this truck? And now they've started sending out emails to people who haven't taken delivery yet that a lot of gear is no longer going to be included at delivery. And of course, they're still being reasonable about it. So if you had a bunch of gear selected on your pre-order, they, for the most part, have deducted the price of all of those gear accessories from the total price of the truck. But the weird thing is, Rivian is saying, well, you're going to have to order your own dedicated spare tire from the Rivian gear shop rather than expect it with the delivery of the vehicle. And at this time, there is no way to order a Rivian full spare tire from the gear shop. You can buy a set of 4 tires, so I guess if you want 4 spares, you can do that. But Rivian, I guess, has just been telling people, well, eventually we're going to add to the gear shop just a spare tire kit. But as of right now, you can't really do that. So I seem to vaguely remember a long time ago people telling me that the R1T EPA test was done with a spare tire in the trunk, or whatever you call that compartment beneath the bed. And now I'm wondering if they retook the EPA test without a spare tire. I don't think it would result in that big of a range difference. But other things like snowboard mounts or cargo crossbars or even all-weather floor mats are no longer included with the delivery of the R1T. They're just gonna deduct it from the price of the truck and then say, yeah, you need to buy that separately at the gear shop. And a lot of people are speculating as to why. I don't think there's one specific reason, but overall to me it does make a lot of sense that, you know, Rivian has built an incredible pickup truck. It is the Swiss Army knife of electric vehicles with so many features, so many little compartments and things you can access and accessories you can attach on that are very clever and very useful. But overall, that is horrible for production ramping, because it means that every single customer is gonna pick and choose different accessories, different things they want to pay for versus things they don't want to pay for. And that complicates the assembly line a lot, having all of these different steps and accessories. And similar to first deliveries, I'm sure this is expanding to all of the different accessories Rivian is offering. If one component or one one accessory gets held up and they don't have enough in stock, they don't want to have to stop the entire assembly line until they get more crossbars in stock, you know? So similarly, you know, they don't sell dedicated spare tire kits right now at the gear shop. I don't know who their tire manufacturer is, but it makes me wonder if all of the tires are designated for vehicles or the sets of 4 that they're selling on the gear shop. So as soon as someone says, hey, I want a spare tire in mine, that maybe throws off the entire assembly line because they're like, hold on, this truck has a spare, this one doesn't, but this one does. And that just involves a lot more checking and people on the factory floor going, hold on, is this the right configuration? So I'm sure it simplifies a whole lot to just say, if you want those accessories, buy them from the gear shop. That can be a completely separate department with a different logistics lot and they can ship it directly to customers. It's a little bit annoying that they won't arrive at the same time that the vehicle does, but if this does help Rivian streamline production and build vehicles faster, I'm overall for it. But others were also speculating in the Rivian subreddit that perhaps Rivian wants to keep the price of the actual truck intentionally lower and have you instead buy things aftermarket. That way they may qualify for the federal tax credit going into effect next year, because pickup trucks have the limit of $80,000, which puts Rivian in this very awkward position because, like, a lot of their trucks are going to be sub 80,000, particularly the dual motor versions, but then also a lot of their trucks with the introduction of the Max Pack are going to be over 80,000. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, you know, like a good 30 to 40% of Rivians do qualify for the federal tax credit, and then 60 to 70% do, and that creates this very bizarre, like, price gap in the lineup. So maybe that's their thought process here, but this does seem a little bit early to be making those decisions, considering right now Rivian is only building quad motor vehicles and they're testing the dual motors, but they haven't started production of them yet. And all of the quad motors start at a bare minimum of $87,000. So even the base model truck that they're building right now doesn't qualify for the federal tax credit anyway, although I guess you could make the argument that a lot of people put in reservations before the price hikes. Maybe there's some people that haven't taken delivery yet that have a configuration that's sub 80,000, so they're expecting a tax credit, but maybe the crossbars or the camping kitchen or even the floor mats were pushing them a little bit over that 80,000, and therefore that means you're missing out on whatever the Rivian qualifies for tax credit wise. This is part of the reason I don't like tax credits this much. It just kind of complicates lineups and convinces people to push off delivery for a little bit longer. I would prefer just financially incentivizing domestic battery production so that EVs can genuinely become cheaper instead of trying to attach these point of sale credits and starting them at specific times. I think that makes things way harder for the EV manufacturer, and it makes calculating the final price of the product a lot more complicated. So some things I just think you guys should be aware of, that basically no Rivians anymore are going to be delivered with spare tires or camping kitchens or crossbars or all-weather floor mats, but Rivian is going to let you order that through the gear shop, and I guess that means you can't rope in these accessories to your loan, you know, if you're taking out a line of credit to pay for your truck. But if this pushes you over the edge because you weren't able to afford the gear for your Rivian, so you were hoping to finance them, you're probably not in a very good financial position anyway. So personally, I think that is a terrible idea, and if all of this is able to help Rivian pump out a few more trucks a quarter, then I would absolutely say it is worth it. But ultimately, I still am very excited for the future of the company. I was happy to see them prove very safe in crash testings lately, and they have a huge cash pile with an increasing number of revenue being counted every single quarter because they are ramping up production insanely fast considering how big the battery packs are in their vehicles, and the fact that they're on track to launch the Max Pack Rivian, which is going to have an over 400-mile range. Plus, they seem to be prototyping the dual motor powertrains right now, and they look amazing, kind of making me wonder why we fuss around with quad motor so much when dual motor is capable of doing all of these great things. But my viewpoint is, as far as like new EV startups go, Rivian is the most poised for success out of all of them, just because of the cash pile, their factories, they're growing their charger network, the product is amazing, and it has a ton of demand, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So I just keep coming back to, if you think Rivian is going to fail, you must think all EV startups are going to fail and don't stand a chance, because no one is as close or as successful as Rivian is, with the delivery van ramping up, Amazon having tight ties with the company, the R1S ramping up and being one of the best full-size SUVs you can buy, the R1T being so practical and having its own dedicated charging network that's growing and a lot easier to park because it's not as big as an F-150 the Lightning, and I think the software of the Rivian is substantially better than Ford's software. There's just so many great things going for them, but yeah, I felt like I needed to cover this so you guys were aware of what is and isn't included with the purchase anymore. What do you guys think of simplifying the configurator? Should they go further and drop some more color options to help accelerate production more? Maybe simplify the interior a bit? All that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.